Conference League as an opportunity to make sure that the entire squad is getting a lot of rotation, a lot of the bench players to have an opportunity to participate. So,
Здравейте, лескари! Добре дошли! Това е Трибуна Левски. Днес завършваме целия кръг от подготовка за мача с Айнтрахт с един разговор, който ще бъде посветен изцяло на противника ни от Германия. Поканил съм Браян Сандърс, който е основател на Hey Eintracht Frankfurt Podcast, единствения подкаст за Айнтрахт на английски язик, който ще ни разкаже малко повече за това как се стигна до тук да наричаме Айнтрахт победител в Лига Европа за 2022 година, за пътя на Айнтрахт в последните около 10 на години, за неговата лична история, как американец, да, с немско потекло, се пали по Айнтрахт и всичко останало оставям ви в разговор с Браян, да ви хареса.
Levski rock and roll. Levski rock and roll. Levski skarba goals. Let's go.
Okay. Hello, Brian. Thank you for accepting my invitation. You can present yourself in a few words.
Yeah, no problem. Love to kick the ball around a little bit with you. So, I started up Hey Eintracht Frankfurt as an English language podcast covering Eintracht Frankfurt in the spring 2017. That all happens to coincide with one of our 3 recent appearances in the German Cup final, the DFB Pokal. And yeah, everything for the team has kind of kicked on wonderfully. My own background with Eintracht stems back to the 06 World Cup. So watching the tournament at home because of the kickoff times in Germany, it was late morning, middle of the day kickoff times that we were able to watch the matches. And I asked my father, where in Germany do our ancestors hail from that immigrated to the United States in the 18th and 19th centuries? And he said, somewhere in the Frankfurt area, if memory serves. And yeah, it was from a small village outside of Frankfurt, which is pretty much now part of the general Frankfurt city suburbs because it is such a big city. And yeah, so I dug up, did a little research, realized that they have a high-end performing team in the Bundesliga, and I barely missed out on the bad days of the Eintracht, with which there is one Bulgarian connection to the Eintracht in that. And yeah, I've been a fan of the club ever since then. In today's landscape, it's much easier to be a fan because of the success that they have had, but it's also easier because in today's landscape in the United States, from a soccer standpoint, you can see all the leagues that you want. It's like, hey, you want to watch Scotland, you can. England, you can. The Women's League, you can. The Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, the Portuguese league, the United States has got someone who's carrying each of those leagues. So it's very easy to follow the Eintracht these days, as opposed to when I first started following the Eintracht. And it's also easy when you're a little bit better than what you used to be.
And have you had time to visit matches of Eintracht Frankfurt?
I have not had a chance to do when last I've had 2 chances to go to Frankfurt. I've not been able to take those up. One, we found out that I had a son on the way, so that kind of scuppered that. So I was going to be going in the spring last year, but with a new kid and everything, it just wasn't really going to work out. And before that, I had plans to go in the spring of 2020, but then COVID happened and the entire world shut down. So, and then nobody was allowed to go to matches until like practically spring of 21 within Germany. Yeah. I mean, they were able to play it in England, but every country had their own rules, and I've had opportunities to get out there. Every single time there seems to be one catastrophic event, one happy event that kind of kept me away. So I've not been to Germany yet to watch the Eintracht, but it's now something that I'm looking forward to doing with my little son.
Right, that's gonna be nice.
Gotta raise them right.
Sure. That's for sure. What can you tell me about the recent success of Eintracht? You told me that you started this podcast in 2017.
Everything really started in the 2015-2016 season when Eintracht they finished. So they hired Niko Kovac in middle of the spring. We were really in a bad spot. We were 10 points away from safety. But under Niko Kovac, we were able to make it to 16th place and the relegation playoffs. So the 16th place team from the Bundesliga plays the third place team from the second division. Typically, the top league team does win. Stuttgart, most recently, that you have a great history with in your European endeavors, faced off against Hamburg, another famous German team who's currently in the second division, and Stuttgart was able to stay up in the Bundesliga against Hamburg. In that iteration, at the end of the 15-16 season, Eintracht was against Nuremberg, another great name of the German footballing landscape. And the Eintracht was able to win over two legs, 2-1. We stayed up that 16-17 season. We were a team who we finally had a new sporting director for the first, and new chairman, and basically knew everything. Like, everything was changing within the Eintracht backroom staff, and it was all for the good. And Eintracht was able to start making incremental changes. We made it to, as I mentioned, to the 17 German Cup final, the DFB Pokal final. We lost to Dortmund, but the thing was, the money that we recouped for a team that finished, and I think we finished in 8th place if memory serves. No, excuse me, that was a subsequent season. We finished in 12th place that season, and what we then did was we reinvested that in the team. And the 17-18 season, we barely missed out on European qualification through the Bundesliga, finishing in 8th. But we beat Bayern Munich, of all teams in the European landscape, or in the German landscape for that matter. We beat Bayern Munich in the Pokal in a great 3-1 match. That kick-started everything. Niko Kovac sadly left to coach Bayern. We got in Adolf Hutter, who was the recent champion of Young Boys Bern, and he led us to the semifinals of the Europa League. And we sold off a lot of the players from that squad. He rebuilt it over 2 years. So we finished in 7th place in the second season, and then we finished in 5th place in his third season, qualifying for the Europa League again. But he decided that he was like, "Hey, I'm done. I'm moving on to the next thing." We signed out Oliver Glasner, and Oliver Glasner was able to take on the team that Adolf Hutter had been kind of rebuilding, restocking, and brought them to a 12th place finish in the Bundesliga. But he brought us to the Europa League final, where we beat Rangers and Sevilla, and enjoyed the Champions League for a little bit. Got knocked out of the round of 16 by a Napoli team who was pretty dang good, not gonna lie. Yeah. And we finished in 7th place, kind of snuck into European places at the death against the Volkswagen-supported club Wolfsburg, coached now by the same Niko Kovac, who was Eintracht's coach. So everything kind of comes all together. And in addition to finishing in 7th place, we made it to the German Cup final again, just happened to lose to that fizzy drink company that happens to own a team in Leipzig. We don't really like to talk about them all too much in the Bundesliga because we love this 50+1 model that Eintracht adheres to. And that's where Eintracht has been on a real great ride over the last few seasons, and it all stems with barely surviving relegation.
That's a pretty impressive turnaround of events. And now, do you think Topmьолер would continue this this politics of rebuilding over and over again?
I do think he will, and here's what. So his lone senior team experience was coaching in Luxembourg. Led the first ever Luxembourg team to ever qualify for the group stage of any UEFA competition. So there's something to be said for that. And has been kind of a assistant coach to Julian Nagelsmann as he was in Leipzig. Like I mentioned, we don't like to mention them, but they're pretty dang good, and they're able to find and develop talents. So he had a hand in that, and then he had a hand in navigating the crazy ship that is Bayern Munich for 1.5 seasons as the assistant coach. So he got a lot. He's got quite a bit of diverse background of experience, and he's a former player for Eintracht. I think during the same days as the Eintracht's lone Bulgarian connection, and if memory serves, his own father was also a coach of the Eintracht back in the 90s as well. So it's kind of a full circle again that the Eintracht has with Dino Topmьолер. So far, I've liked what I've seen. But hey, you know what? It's early days. We've got the first round of the Cup out of the way. We've got our first match of the Bundesliga out of the way. Things point to this could be a good season. But there's still 33 matches in the Bundesliga left to play. We got 2 matches here in the Europa Conference League to play before you get into the group stage and hopefully then knockout phase, because golly, at Eintracht, we love our European nights. We travel en masse to our European away days. And there's who knows who we got in the Pokal. We could have, I don't know, like a Bayern Munich in the next round, or we could have, a small minnow, kind of like some of the ones that knocked out Bremen and so forth in the next round. So there's so many possibilities that are still left to be had. Oh yeah, the transfer window hasn't even closed yet, so we could still lose Randal Kolo Muani, granted for like a 9-digit figure, which is pretty nice haul, but he's a really good player. We want to hold on to him.
Yeah, from what I've seen from your game against Darmstadt, your play is really dependent on him, like scoring the goals.
Randal Kolo Muani, it's a good point. Randal Kolo Muani is a player who really, a lot of our goals do go through, but the thing is, the team is capable of creating more goal-scoring opportunities. It's just you don't have someone minus Randal Kolo Muani who has that what I would consider world-class or nearly world-class kind of pedigree, being able to put everything all together. And is he the linchpin? Yes, but this team has been designed so that it is not as dependent of him as a lone striker up top to be the sole source of the goals. And at this point, I've seen enough to believe that, if we did lose him, would we finish as high as we would like in the league? No, I'm not going to kid myself. We won't, but we will look at ourselves in acquiring a striker that to complement what we do have with the team so far, that would be able to build a team, build a team that works and functions as a competitive unit that will be able to get the goals that we need and basically get the results that we need. Because there were many times that Randal Kolo Muani in the spring of 23, he'd get a goal, he'd get 2, but he kind of was doing it off of individual brilliance, and there was not a lot of cohesiveness in the squad last season in the spring, and we just got opened up kind of like a tin can, and everyone was just scooping out the innards. And the Eintracht just kind of, if it wasn't for the DFB Pokal success that we had, making it to the final, we would that spring was so debilitatingly awful that I considered just telling my sons, like, oh, don't worry about it. The season magically ended, And the Eintracht was in the round of 16, and that's just where we stayed. The team that has been brought in by Dino Topmьолер is one that seems to be that's got way more squad cohesion than before. But then again, you also had plenty of players who were already halfway out the door that weren't exactly as invested into the team, and it showed as the spring went on.
You mentioned it a bit, but I was wondering whether the board would be targeting winning the Conference League, Eintracht being the team with the highest coefficient of any club in the tournament, and your results in the spring is maybe would tell me that you were focusing on the Champions League more than anything else last season. Is that going to be the case this season?
Well, I would definitely say they look at the Conference League, and it's I think honestly for a team from the higher leagues such as, and then there are other top teams that are going to be joining us. Again, we're going to have Fiorentina as part of the Conference League. You got Aston Villa, 1981 European Cup champions. Well, what is now the Champions League. For them, coming in from England, I couldn't tell you who the heck was coming in from Spain offhand. But I look at this team as one that could go all the way to the final, but I think they're looking at the Conference League as an opportunity to make sure that the entire squad is getting a lot of rotation, a lot of the bench players to have an opportunity to participate. So if you look back on the Bundesliga and how they've done in the Conference League, it's not exactly been very great. Union Berlin, they were kind of earning their stripes first year in the European places. They then went on to have a decent run to the knockout phase of the Europa League last season, while it's finishing in the top four. STFC Code was in the league last year, and that kind of got derailed when they went to France, and everything kind of fell apart for those guys. But we got their best player that they had on their team, so I'm not all too concerned about Code. But I think honestly, any Eintracht fan, if you ask them, they're like, we want to be in Europe because the fans travel en masse, and that is one of the biggest selling points of the club is we travel abroad. We bring this huge noise. Everyone can look back to our visit to Barcelona a year and a half ago and say, oh my gosh, there are so many of you guys. And they're like, yeah, if you had sold all the tickets legally to us, and instead just kind of capped us at the knee, we wouldn't have probably bought the tickets in the manner that we did. And we would have still filled the Barcelona stadium with Eintracht Frankfurt fans. And the Eintracht fan will travel. They'll travel to Bulgaria. They'll travel to every country that is on the list. Maybe not Israel, but that's getting into the weeds a little bit from a geopolitical standpoint. Some people not being very okay with going out there from a sensitivity standpoint, or to Cyprus. But honestly, the Eintracht fan will travel here, there, and everywhere that the Eintracht is playing. It's a question of where are the first team resources going to be devoted to. And I honestly see the first team resources being devoted solely to the Bundesliga. And at least during the group phase, you'll see a lot of rotation. You'll see, a lot of the bench players all be suddenly thrust into the starting lineups during the group phase. But the thing is, I 100% will say that they are focused solely on this playoff, because then, your plan for overall squad development is kind of shattered because you don't have these 6 group stage matches that you can work to develop your team over the course of the fall, so that when injuries do occur, you got a really ready-made guy ready to jump right into the first team during the home stretch of the spring. And who knows where the Eintracht is. If you get to the group phase, gotta win this playoff, of course. If you get second place or first place, okay. I'd love it if we win the group. Win the playoff, win the group, because then you don't have to play until March. Kind of let your team have a longer chance at being able to make a run. I would say one of the keys to Eintracht winning the European Cup against Rangers was the fact that we finished first in our group. So we came into the round of 16 as opposed to this play-in round where you have all of the Champions League third place fallouts join the Europa League. And we really kind of dodged the bullet because there were some big teams that, who knows what kind of matchup Eintracht could have had then. And, you just, there's a whole bunch of what ifs that could have happened. So from my standpoint, it's, hey, Eintracht, get into the group, put out the strongest team you can for your 3 home matches, or if you've already secured, if match day 6 is the 3rd home match, and you've already got first place wrapped up, okay, then throw out the reserves. But use the home matches as, hey, the 50+ thousand fans who are there for that match, put on the best show that you can by putting out the best team that you can, and get that first place so that you can have a easier way for a deep run whilst being able to have the best chance at having a great run in the Bundesliga.
Okay, and finally about the playoffs, what do you expect, and have you what do you know about Levski, and do you think there's gonna be problems, or is gonna be a walk
I'll
in the
say
park?
this much: if the Eintracht fans can somehow, some way travel to Istanbul to play Fenerbahce, the whole Turkish diaspora and German relations, sometimes they can be good, sometimes it can be bad. And we were able to get in and out of there, as one of my buddies was able to do. He's like, yeah, I love looking around at Istanbul. Also was very on edge because we had to then cross over the river to go to the Asia side of Istanbul, where it's a little dicier. It just is what it is. And we were able to navigate those kind of location that you would have thought, hey, maybe we will get a frosty reception. We got a frosty reception when we visited Shakhtar Donetsk, when we played them in, I think we played them in Kharkiv. Obviously, can't really go there for obvious geopolitical reasons. Let's keep the football with the football, shall we? But I think that the Eintracht fans are going to be looking forward to any trip going out to Bulgaria. This is the first time that fans will have been able to face a team from Bulgaria. We've, as I mentioned, gone to Turkey before, gone to Ukraine, based on where the current maps are drawn, gone to the old Soviet Union, and gone to the German Federation, which was, post-Soviet fallout. And honestly, when it comes to the German fan traveling, all they want to do is just drink all the beer that's available. They want to eat all the food. So basically, your restaurateur is like payday central for a couple days. It's going to be a massive party, and we'll let the shits fall where they may. And when you come to Frankfurt, I suggest that you guys check out the inner city, which is really lovely. It's really being well built up, and stay there because it's an easy tram ride from the center of the city to the stadium, which is out by the airport. They call it the Forest Stadium, but it's kind of tucked away back there. But it's a wonderful train ride to get out to the stadium from the inner part of the city. And there's so much to do in Frankfurt. So if there's any fan of your club that is curious about making the trip over, one, stadium is very well laid out. You guys will have no problems with security. Everything will be nicely neat and organized. And you'll think, wow, efficiency like this, why doesn't everyone do it like this? You'll enjoy your time in Germany, and we'll let the 180 or 180 plus minutes kind of dictate how the rest of our seasons will then be dictated.
Sure enough. Thank you for your advice, because I'm planning on doing the trip. Actually, I will be doing the trip. So
there is the local beverage of choice is called Apfelwein or locally called Eboloy. It's a little dry, but if you kind of like your dry alcoholic beverages, can't go wrong with the local delicacy.
Sure. I'm going to try it for sure. For sure. Okay, well, I think we're going to leave it there. And thank you very much for being here. I'm hoping that both games will be full with nice football moments, and may the best team win.
Sounds great. Looking forward to the ball being kicked.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you, and see you soon.